Well, it certainly was a warm day today in the eastern United States. A number of record highs set once again today. And actually, there is some cooler weather on the way, but not tonight. Check out our recent temperatures. In the East Coast right now, it's just about 20 after 11, or close to there. We're still looking at 80s in Boston and New York and Washington, D.C. and Raleigh, Durham, and 80 degrees right now in Detroit, Michigan. It's pretty warm there, even 87 around St. Louis. Is a touch on the warm side as well. A lot of heat and humidity continuing here. It was a chilly day today in the Northwest and the Northern Rockies, and temperatures have already cooled somewhat into the 50s and 60s. The Southwest holding on to their triple digits, a pair of 102-degree readings, and the heat and humidity factoring in to make it feel more like 104 right now in Phoenix. But just think, a couple hours after sunset and it still feels like 90 degrees around Dallas, or 92 in St. Louis, or 99 is what it feels like outside right this very minute. If you live in Washington, D.C., just step outside and go, this feels like 99. Well, that's what it feels like, to the skin at least. Looks like Sunday is going to be a little bit better, just a little bit though, and primarily for the Northeast. We've had a front move through, some cooler and drier air affecting much of New York and Pennsylvania and parts of Michigan and Ohio, for instance. But also because of the proximity of the front, we've been seeing some rather active thunderstorms. But really, the majority of the thunderstorm problems have been in Nebraska and on toward Minnesota, Iowa, Illinois, this region here. Now back behind the front, that's where we've had the cool air. We had record lows this morning in the Northern Rockies. Yes, record lows. Here's where all our heat and humidity will continue again tomorrow. But that's kind of typical for this time of year. The folks who live here are maybe not thrilled about it, but they're used to it at least. Severe thunderstorms still a possibility, mainly in the central sections of the country, but a few isolated areas may still see some strong thunderstorms. There is a tornado watch in effect here in Nebraska, South Dakota, severe thunderstorm watch here and here. Let's show you the radar, show you what we've got rumbling about out there. We'll first take you into the central sections of the country. Nebraska, from Yankton, South Dakota, toward Grand Island, back toward McCook. This line of thunderstorms has been weakening somewhat as it heads off toward the east, but some heavy rains associated with it and some very intense thunderstorms. Northern areas of Missouri and central portions of Iowa continuing to dump very heavy rainfall.
Coming up, a look at your local radar. But first, the current local conditions. Today's regional forecast. Your local 36-hour forecast from the National Weather Service. Local radar showing any precipitation in your area. Intensity is indicated by the color code at the top of the screen.
All right, let's check out the forecast for your Sunday, where as we start in the Northeast here, we'll find things a bit cooler tomorrow. Who knows if we'll see the record heat, but we won't see the triple digits. At least we've got our fingers crossed. Tomorrow, different than today. Why? Cold front moved through today. Now, still kind of muggy in the morning. Temperatures starting off in the 70s, but you know, this morning in LaGuardia Airport, for instance, they started off the morning in the mid-80s. That was their morning low, in the mid-80s. Well, tomorrow in the 70s instead, and afternoon highs in the 90s. A lot of sunshine expected here. Some cooling rains for Detroit, on through Ohio, down into parts of Virginia. Now, the showers across the south are going to be more widely scattered. You'll likely start off with sunshine to begin the day. Then the afternoon heating will come into play, and you'll see widely scattered thunder showers just about anywhere in the southeast. You just can't rule them out this time of year. Highs once again will be on into the 90s. It'll be a toasty afternoon up in Raleigh, 97 there, and generally dry across much of Texas. It looks like a high temperature tomorrow in Houston around 94. So lots of heat and humidity continuing here. Lots of humidity, not quite as much heat, but still warm enough. Finally, that frontal system that's bringing the heavy rains to the plains is beginning to eke its way eastward. Looks like the majority of the showers activity tomorrow in the dark green. That means Michigan, Wisconsin, seeing some heavier showers, lighter rains, some sunshine mixed in. Parts of Missouri, sunshine in the plains tomorrow. And in the west, it's still dry, and it's getting warmer. Looks like temperatures tomorrow in the northwest will be on into the 80s, most areas. Portland, though, 72. And down into the southwest, a great day to hang out at the beach with the high in L.A. of 79.
Find out what you can do now to protect your home from wildfire. Watch Fire Safe Sunday, July 11th at 5 and 10 p.m. Eastern Time on the Weather Channel.
Coming up, a look at your local radar. But first, the current local conditions. Current regional conditions. Your local 36-hour forecast from the National Weather Service. The extended forecast. Special regional information. The forecast for cities nationwide. The regional forecast. Your local radar showing any precipitation and its movement during the past 90 minutes. Intensity is indicated by the color code at the top of the screen. This is the Weather Channel. Weather you can always turn to for accurate, dependable weather forecasts 24 hours a day.
Time now to show you the forecast for tomorrow in the western United States. Some subtle changes here. Doesn't look like much change Sunday morning as that cold front basically just remaining in place. To the south of it, it's been very warm. To the north of it, it's been kind of cool. We had record lows this morning across parts of Montana and Idaho, and again tomorrow morning it's going to be a bit on the chilly side. Could see some showers as well. What we are going to see happening, though, in the next 24 hours is an area of low pressure forming on into western sections of Idaho. That's going to keep things cool and a bit unsettled. I think tomorrow in Washington and Oregon, you'll see a better chance of rain tomorrow than you did today. Spokane's been seeing some rain today, but more widespread showers here, just isolated showers down to the south and west. The marine layer is going to be especially active tomorrow along the coastal areas. So if you have plans to head to the beach, wait a little while and give those clouds a chance to burn off. They should burn off in most instances, and it'll be very mild along the beach, comfortable. And again, the triple digits continuing in the deserts and even on into the valleys of California northward. Though it starts off cool, temperatures are rapidly going to heat up. It looks like 90 tomorrow in Sacramento, 91 for Reno. That's going to be a hot day there. But cool because of clouds and more showers tomorrow across much of the northwest. In fact, we could find some thunder showers throughout Spokane and Pendleton and just downright cloudy in Salem.
Do you suffer from morning stiffness or aches, snoring, restless sleep? You deserve a better night's sleep. Try the Contour Pillow from Comfort Track. It's anatomically designed to match the natural shape of your neck and head as it aligns and supports. Ordinary and down pillows lose their shape and don't support your neck. Don't do this to your neck. The Contour Pillow comfortably supports your neck so your muscles can relax, reducing strain and allowing you to breathe more freely.
My husband isn't snoring any longer.
I did notice when I woke up after using the contour pillow a lack of stiffness in my upper shoulder and neck area.
The Contour Pillow is not available in stores. Doctors and chiropractors sell similar products for $50 and even $60. Get your Contour Pillow for only $19.95 plus shipping and handling. Don't wait until you have discomfort. Order now. Call now to order, and we'll give you the zippered washable cover, a $5 value, free.
Have your credit card ready. Call now. 1-800-772-6600. That's 1-800-772-6600. Or send check or money order to the address on your screen.
Time now to check out what's happening on the radar, but first a reminder, still tornado watches in effect. Nebraska, South Dakota, severe thunderstorm watch here in the area shaded in yellow. Unfortunately, our severe thunderstorms decreasing in intensity, but still a possibility in central areas of Illinois. Show you the national scene. First, the flashing area showing you where we're seeing our stronger storms. We'll first head you into Nebraska, where the storms have weakened as they've continued to head eastward, but still some heavy rain and hail and certainly gusty winds. Gusty wind seems to be the main concern with this particular line of storms from Yankton, South Dakota, down toward Grand Island, back toward McCook, pushing off southeast. Some heavy rains, too, around the St. Joseph region, also moving very little but slowly eastward around Sioux Falls. Earlier, we'd seen some rather strong storms, and they're heading east. Some heavy rains in southern areas of Minnesota, and especially northeastern Missouri here, back into central areas of Illinois. Not moving very rapidly and moving over the same area, so you're likely to encounter some flooding on the roadways tonight.
Coming up, a look at your local radar. But first, the current conditions. Your local 36-hour forecast from the National Weather Service. Forecast for cities nationwide. Regional forecast. The current local radar showing any precipitation in your area. Intensity is indicated by the color code at the top of the screen.
Flooding continues to be a problem in Nebraska and Kansas and Missouri. Even these are the areas that have the flash flood watches in effect, the areas in the dark green. But even in central Iowa, we have problems with the secondary roads being flooded, and so everybody's trying to use the major interstates. Now the major interstates are like cram-packed with people. So emergency management officials in Iowa, especially central Iowa, are urging folks not to travel unless it's absolutely necessary. So if you must travel through Des Moines, for instance, do so only if it is necessary. Well, aside from the flooding problems, we'll continue to see rain in the upper Midwest through the Great Lakes and some dying showers in parts of the south and east, maybe a few rumbles of thunder. It looks like the majority of the severe weather activity will be in Ohio and back into Illinois, and then back over the Central Plains, where there are tornado watches, Nebraska and South Dakota, and then a severe thunderstorm watch here until a little later on this evening. And also a severe thunderstorm watch, a small sliver of it in central Illinois. Well, the winds are fairly calm for much of the country, but still a bit brisk in the areas here shaded in blue.
Now, your local forecast, accurate and dependable from the Weather Channel. Current regional conditions. Special regional information. your local 36-hour forecast from the National Weather Service. Long-range outlook. The regional forecast. The extended forecast. Your local radar, showing any precipitation and its movement during the past 90 minutes. Intensity is indicated by the color code at the top of the screen.
Well, by now you ought to be well aware that tomorrow's the 4th of July, and you probably already have major plans. Keith is in shock. Nobody told him tomorrow's the 4th of July. Well, make your plans now. Let's check out what the outdoor is going to be like. I mean, even if you're not heading to the beach, or you're going to be heading out in your sailboat, you will find some gusty conditions across parts of the Great Lakes, mainly the western lakes, and the reason is a very strong area of low pressure here. I'll show you what that's going to do in a moment. Lighter winds, though, for Erie and Ontario and along much of the New England and northeast coast. That strong area of low pressure will continue to produce rain. How about that? No big surprise. Much of Minnesota, Wisconsin, the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, widely scattered showers. A possibility in areas such as New York and Pennsylvania. But sunshine from Kentucky on down toward parts of the Gulf Coast. A typical summer sultry afternoon setting up in the southeast. So if you're going to be heading outside playing that late round of golf or tennis, remember, you're going to have to take frequent breaks. Make sure you get plenty of water to drink. The winds along the Gulf Coast and the southeast generally light, a little gusty around the Texas coast. And for the west coast, the winds are really going to pick up around Puget Sound and much of Washington, and then lighter winds along the California coast. And tomorrow's going to be a fairly nice day to be outside with a lot of sun. Big day tomorrow for a lot of folks to get outside, and if you can tolerate the heat in the west or in the east and the cooler weather in the west, I think most places around the nation will be okay.
I think so, but we will have a developing heat wave in the east this week. You'll have more on that coming up, and right now we'll check on this forecast, actually the forecast for several cities across the U.S.
Watch the 5-day business planner here on the Weather Channel at 20 minutes after every hour. You get a comprehensive national report that covers the forecast over the next 5 days. Watch the 5-day business planner coming up soon on the Weather Channel. Now, your local forecast, accurate and dependable from the Weather Channel. Coming up, a look at your local radar. But first, the current conditions. Your local 36-hour forecast from the National Weather Service. forecast for cities nationwide. Forecast. The current local radar showing any precipitation in your area. Intensity is indicated by the color code at the top of the screen.
Time now to check out what's going to be happening over the next 5 days. And the 5-day business planner is sponsored by BMW, the ultimate driving machine. Well, Sunday morning, you won't have too many difficulties driving, not at least weather difficulties. Let's hope the car's working just fine. Much of the eastern United States remaining relatively calm. Much of the west as well, fairly calm. Now, we will find one big fly in the ointment, and it's one big fly, certainly. This area of low pressure, very intense at present time, especially for this time of year. It's kind of unusual to see this strong a storm system. It's going to continue to strengthen next 24 hours. Gradually working its way very slowly eastward and northward. It's drawing in a lot of warm, moist air ahead of the front, so it will continue to be quite warm and humid through the eastern half of the nation. Back behind it, it's pulling in a lot of cool air from Canada, and we'll continue to see some precipitation, some rainfall generally from Idaho and Montana into Wyoming and the Dakotas. But the heavy rains again into Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa, developing along this frontal system. And in the afternoon hours, we'll find those thunderstorms being aided by the heating of the afternoon, helping to produce some strong thunderstorms, basically from Texas on northward. Now, we may find a few stray showers in parts of the northeast. Down south, there's so much humidity, you just cannot completely rule out the possibility of an afternoon thunder shower around the Gulf Coast. Back westward, offshore winds will mean dry air generally. That will mean a lot of sunshine and another warm day. But we do have a lot of cool air in place, some 30s, some pockets of 30s in the Columbia River Gorge, also for parts of northeastern Nevada, 40s throughout the Rocky Mountain regions, even in the higher elevations today. In the Tetons, for instance, up above 11,000 feet, we had snowfall, believe it or not. It's that chilly. But the mild weather all the way up to the Canadian border here from North Dakota on into Maine. Afternoon highs quite steamy ahead of the frontal system, but where the clouds and the rain continue, temperatures will be a bit cool. The northern plains, the northwest, down into the Rockies. Well, the central U.S. cools down just a bit as we head in the next couple of days. That front tries to eke its way eastward. The heat and the humidity continuing all the way up into Maine. We'll eventually find temperatures in the central sections beginning to rebound a bit as we head toward Thursday. The west, mild for the northwest, the heat continuing in the southwest. Typical, nothing out of the ordinary for the valleys of California. Here's our front Monday. Here's our front Tuesday, making very little progress eastward in the strong storms and the heavy rains continuing. Now, by Wednesday, as that front continues to try to work its way eastward, it finds this ridge of high pressure and it begins to weaken a bit. Here comes our next storm system out of the Rockies heading toward the plains with some more rain. Well, we'll let you know if you'll be seeing rain on your 4th of July picnic. Your local forecast is coming up.
Coming up, a look at your local radar. But first, the current local conditions. Today's regional forecast. Your local 36-hour forecast from the National Weather Service. Local radar showing any precipitation in your area. Intensity is indicated by the color code at the top of the screen.
Huh. I wonder if we have termites.
Terminex is the leader in termite control.
Where's that number?
Our name is well known. It's not always well loved. Call us. Nobody bugs bugs like Terminex.
For the Terminex branch nearest you, call 1-800-TERMINEX.
Here's the real beauty of Rust-Oleum protective coatings. A tough barrier against the elements. Rust-Oleum, the name that means protection.
There are a lot of magazines out there that take sides. What we do is take pictures. Life. It's what you make of it.
Let's go ahead and check the forecast. It's the 4th of July, and here we go, getting up tomorrow morning, 60s to 70s. Now, you might be celebrating it tomorrow, or you might wait until Monday. In the meantime, look at these afternoon highs in the 90s. Just think, this will be sounding cool in a couple of days. Boston, 88 degrees, a far cry from what we saw today, with showers and thunderstorms that could maybe mess up some late afternoon plans, but that's the key. Things will be happening in the late afternoon. Dallas and Houston, the mid-70s to start it off. 75 in Charleston. Lots of humidity, too, as we warm up to the 90s. 90s, low 90s for Florida, with more thunderstorms scattered around, and we could see some more along the Gulf Coast. To the north and west, though, this front drops south, and notice the red area. What does that mean? That means the potential for strong, maybe even some severe weather as our front moves east, and it is a powerful cold front. Just talked to the folks in, well, the Grand Tetons. They had a foot of snow up in the high country. Now, of course, most people don't go up to the 11,000-foot level, but it was cold nonetheless. 50s here, 70s here. There's a cold front in between. That's our powerful cold front dropping east. Big thunderstorms again tomorrow. Unfortunately, we've been talking about the flooding. This front's going to add more water. Now, hopefully it's not so much water that we aggravate the flooding, but there is still rain in the old forecast. Behind the front, 77 in Rapid City. In the northwest, it's going to stay cool. In the southwest, relatively cool, only 100 in Phoenix.
Ever watched the Weather Channel Florida forecast and wished you could be there? Your wish could come true with our Florida Fantasy Sweepstakes. Keep watching the Weather Channel for details on how to enter.
Coming up, a look at your local radar. But first, the current local conditions. Regional conditions. Your local 36-hour forecast from the National Weather Service. Extended forecast. Special regional information. The forecast for cities nationwide. Regional forecast. powerful radar showing any precipitation and its movement during the past 90 minutes. Intensity is indicated by the color code at the top of the screen. This is the Weather Channel. Weather you can always turn to for accurate, dependable weather forecasts 24 hours a day.
Well, hope you're having a pleasant Saturday night, and I hope you can see this, because if you've got clear skies tonight, you're looking at one beautiful full moon. Keith is checking it out at the present time. Terri Smith and Keith Westerledge here in the studio to amuse you for the next half hour. Most of the country today enjoyed fairly typical June-type temperatures. With a few exceptions. Areas in New England were really chilly today. Boston had a hard time getting rid of the clouds. We're still seeing some fog around much of the region, including Martha's Vineyard. Turned out to be a steamy sort of summer afternoon, but that's very common for this time of year, from Virginia down into Alabama and on up toward Chicago, believe it or not. But we have got a lot of cold air that's in place right now, from Washington on toward Montana and as far south as northern Arizona. Afternoon temperatures were much cooler than they should be. You know, in fact, it was so cold today, we saw snow in the Snowy Range. Imagine that. The Tetons, they picked up some snow. Sierra Madre, these are all mountain ranges on into Wyoming. They all picked up snow above about 11,000 feet, I think, in the Teton Range. We had as much as a foot of snow. Well, the high temperature today in Billings only could make it up to 55 degrees. The 60s, the 70s you're seeing here, they're chilly for this time of year. Now, Grand Island made it up to 93 in Nebraska. That's about what they should see. 91 in Chicago. 83 in New York. But see, in Boston here, 69. That was the best that they could do. And in the east again tomorrow, we're going to see a lot of that heat and humidity prevailing from Texas on toward the Great Lakes. And right here, why is it so warm here and so cool here? Imagine a frontal system. It works out really nicely that way. Lots of heat and humidity ahead of the front, the cooler weather back behind the front, most of the showers along the frontal system. There is a little bit of stray shower activity in the mid-Atlantic and down south. And you know that rain has been creating all sorts of problems up and down the Mississippi River. In Minnesota today, still seeing more rain, just adding to the flooding problems that we've had already. Thunderstorms produced winds today of up to 50 miles an hour. Another 5 inches of rain accumulated in some areas of southwestern Minnesota. The folks in Marshall say they're sandbagging, waiting for possible evacuations, and they'll continue to monitor the river. Basically, that's what everybody's doing up and down the Mississippi River for the next couple of days, because there is more rain in the forecast. In the meantime, we've got to get rid of the severe weather tonight. We've had several reports of tornadoes tonight, a lot of gusty winds and some hail accompanying these thunderstorms, and there's still the potential to see some severe weather here in the areas shaded in red. And there are tornado watches covering a fair section of the Dakotas, Minnesota down toward Nebraska. Severe thunderstorm watch down in Kansas and back into western areas of Michigan. Let's check out the radar, see how these storms are evaluating over the last several hours or so. First, we'll take you on into Kansas and Nebraska, where we've had this line that extends just southwest of Hill City onto Hill City, Grand Island, up to Norfolk, Yankton. It's basically pushing east. Now, it looks like things are beginning to quiet a bit here. The thunderstorms losing some of their punch, but still capable of producing some heavy rains and gusty winds. As we expand out across the Midwest, taking you farther north into the Dakotas and Minnesota, some strong thunderstorms continuing in this region, dumping very heavy rains around Aberdeen, just to the southwest of Alexandria here, up to Thief River Falls, Bemidji. Some thunderstorms continuing to push off towards the north and east. Brainerd's picking up some heavy rains, and we've had some reports of some flooding as a result of the heavy rain in a short period of time. Back into the north, things have dried, with the exception around Virginia. We're still seeing some rather active thunderstorms right now around Chincoteague. They've pushed their way off from Richmond and Norfolk, still seeing some moderate showers around the Norfolk area. Everything here is heading off southeast. Looks like Sunday is going to be fairly dry for much of the country. If you live in the east, what you'll get this 4th of July is heat and humidity. If you live in the west, you'll generally see sunshine and cooler temperatures. And in between, where the two air masses meet, is where we're going to find the heavy rains and the thunderstorms continuing through the day on Sunday. And some isolated showers a possibility down around the Gulf Coast, and a little bit of lingering rain in the northeast. But here's our frontal system, which is so intense for this time of year. Very, very strong area of low pressure. And I don't know if you can see these little teeny gray lines here. They're isobars. To us, that means an area of equal pressure. But when you get a lot of these little gray lines together on a weather map, that means some very windy conditions. A lot of cold air being pulled in behind this frontal system as well. A lot of heavy rains are anticipated in an area that has seen so much rain and does not need to see any additional rainfall. Some places picking up as much as an inch. Well, the temperatures ahead of the front very mild. We'll see 60s all the way to the Canadian border in the morning. 80s and 90s fairly common east of the Mississippi River. Back toward the west, 60s and 70s more widespread. But California, you're going to continue to see the warm weather, especially through the valleys, but even along the coastal areas warming up a bit Monday. Things cool down, though, for the central sections of the country with that front heading eastward very slowly, allowing for some cooler weather to filter in here. But the east is not going to get a break from the heat, and the air conditioning units are going to be running pretty much through the rest of the week, it looks like, as far as temperatures go. Well, our front Monday working its way very slowly eastward into Michigan and Wisconsin with the strong thunderstorms all the way down into Texas. By Tuesday, it makes a little bit more progress eastward, and then by Wednesday, it begins to weaken because there's a very stubborn ridge of high pressure that doesn't want to allow this system to head any further east. So we'll see this system weaken while our next system works its way into the plains and produces more problems with flooding and some more heavy rains by Thursday.
It's where you had nicknames, attitudes, all-night talks, and part-time jobs. And since you left, it's the area code most of your calls go back to. Call AT&T now, and you can pay less for them. Spend $40 or more a month, we'll take 25% off your favorite area code, plus 15% off your other calls, guaranteed, with no fee. But you have to call 1-800-426-4752. Real savings made simple. Just another part of the I-Plan.
Find out what you can do now to protect your home from wildfire. Watch Fire Safe Sunday, July 11th at 5 and 10 p.m. Eastern Time on the Weather Channel.
Now, your local forecast, accurate and dependable from the Weather Channel. Current regional conditions. Special regional information. Your local 36-hour forecast from the National Weather Service. Your region's long-range outlook. The regional forecast. The extended forecast. Your local radar showing any precipitation and its movement during the past 90 minutes. Intensity is indicated by the color code at the top of the screen.
Time now to check out what's been happening in the tropics. And so far, it's been a fairly tropical, or quiet, this tropical season, but we're only into the second month. We're only just starting the second month for that matter. And in July, we ordinarily would look to the Gulf of Mexico, parts of the Western Caribbean here, and just off the southeast coast of Florida for the potential for something to develop. These are the most common areas for something to develop this early in July. Later on in the season, we'll look a little further out in the Atlantic, and then even later on, we'll look to the west coast of Africa. Now, we have been watching the west coast of Africa already just because it's been very active. We've seen a number of storms working their way across Africa. Some places have picked up a fair amount of rainfall. But what's been happening is once those systems work their way over the cooler waters of the Atlantic, they've been fizzling out. And that's been the case with all the several series of waves we've seen. Nothing really significant going on, just a series of weak little waves hanging out here and heading off toward the west like they're supposed to do, but nothing out of the ordinary. So we'll keep you posted if anything should change. In the meantime, as we head you back home, the Gulf of Mexico, just about as clear as it could be. Now, we do have a weak upper-level low that's been rotating here in the Gulf. Yesterday it was over Florida. It's been moving kind of west-southwestward. It helped to touch off some showers today around the Florida Panhandle, back into Mississippi and Alabama as well. Around New Orleans, they picked up some rain as a result of this low pressure region. And it's going to continue heading west. So Texas tomorrow, you may be seeing some rain, Louisiana as well, maybe even into Florida. It's just going to help enhance some of the showers. But it's in the middle levels of the atmosphere. We would have to wait for it to show up on the surface for us to be concerned about it. It doesn't look like that's going to happen because there's a fairly strong high pressure ridge here. Caribbean, fairly quiet. You know, we had that little disturbance yesterday in the Western Caribbean. I don't know if you joined us then, but worked its way across Mexico, Central America actually, on into the Pacific. And today it's a tropical depression located right here in the Gulf of Tehuantepec. And it's possible this system could strengthen. It's sitting over warm waters, starting to show a little bit of circulation. It's fairly strong for a tropical system, though it's not yet a tropical depression. We could be calling it a tropical depression in the next 24 hours. And if that was to happen, we would let you know, certainly. Let's take you back home, show you what's going to be happening. It's the forecast for the western United States, 4th of July, showing up with some fairly strong winds along much of the northwest coast. We're going to find cool air continuing across Washington and Oregon. A little bit more sunshine, though, in your forecast for tomorrow. Not quite as chilly. The clouds and showers certainly continuing in Idaho and Wyoming and Montana. Back behind this front, some significantly cooler air for much of the region. Southwest still staying with a fairly strong offshore flow. Lots of sunshine and more heat. Not excessive heat, something very typical for this time of year. Again, the marine layer causing the clouds and the fog to roll in a little later on tonight along the coastal areas and some of the coastal valleys as well. But the further inland you head, the more sunshine you'll see to start off the day. Don't lose heart. The clouds should burn off, and it should turn out to be a very nice 4th of July, really, for this region. Temperatures along this coast will be in the 70s, a little inland. It'll be a bit warmer around the Civic Center at 82, and then certainly the deserts back into the triple-digit readings. Northern California also fairly dry, generally sunny, 60s to start off the day, 90s through the valleys again for high temperatures. Even the higher elevations of Reno and Tahoe Valley pretty warm on into the 70s and 80s. The coast around the 70s, 78 tomorrow, and the city by the bay. And for the west, the northwest, those morning clouds linger in Quileute and Seattle on southward. This is where we've got our moisture, drier air here. But overall, everybody should see plenty of sun, and temperatures should warm up a little bit tomorrow with highs in the 70s.
Coming up, a look at your local radar. But first, the current conditions. Your local 36-hour forecast from the National Weather Service. Forecast for cities nationwide. Forecast. The current local radar showing any precipitation in your area. Intensity is indicated by the color code at the top of the screen.
Pride we share, the belief in freedom. This is America. Take a very special journey to the places of passion and patriotism that still inspires today. From the very place where a small group of rebels risked everything to give birth to a new nation, to where pioneers and patriots sacrificed their lives for freedom. It's a celebration of America. Sunday night at 7 Eastern and Pacific on the Travel Channel. If you don't have the Travel Channel, call your cable operator today.
Money, let's go for broke.
Whitey Harrison doesn't believe in the word old.
I've been surfing since 1927.
Maybe that's why he uses Armor All Protectant on his dash, seats, and even his tires. In minutes, Armor All helps protect them from fading and aging.
Without this stuff in your car, it's like surfing naked.
Armor All, there is a fountain of youth, and now we guarantee it. If your new car dash ever cracks, we'll replace it. Guaranteed.
Armor All says it's a great weekend to care for your car, and don't forget the finishing touch. Armor All.
If you want a flexible caulk that seals water tight without the hassles of silicone, you know what to ask for. White Lightning. White Lightning. Insist on White Lightning, the caulk that everyone's shouting for. By name.
Ask for White Lightning at a participating dealer near you.
And now it's time for the Michelin Drivers Report, brought to you by Michelin and your participating Michelin dealers.
And as we look out through the plain stage, we still have rain in the forecast. Interstate 94 affected, also Interstate 90 here, and Interstate 29. Flash flood watch is in effect for this area. Otherwise, a little rainy travel down to the south, scattered as we head toward the east. But not only do we have rainy travel, we have the threat for some severe thunderstorms out there in the areas here in red, and maybe some stronger thunderstorms in the areas of orange through 7 o'clock. There are several watches still in effect through this evening from Minnesota, Michigan, over to Minnesota and south. The red areas, tornado watches. The yellow areas, severe thunderstorm watches. Let's show you radar and see what it looks like in this area. And the radar does show some strong thunderstorms here, but still very severe, well, severe weather out here. Notice this thunderstorm, it does have a tornado with it, and then the line extends down through Sioux City, Iowa, and southward as it moves on toward the east. This is in association with a low pressure area. A lot of wind, and that wind will continue at times, gusting over 50 miles per hour, where a high wind warning is in effect.
For regional Michelin drivers reports, call the Weather Channel Connection, 1-900-WEATHER.
Let it rain. Let it snow. You've got Michelin's new all-season MXV4. A luxury performance tire with a very special feature. Climate control. Michelin. Because so much is riding on your tires.
Find Michelin tires at this dealer near you, because so much is riding on your tires.
Find out what you can do now to protect your home from wildfire. Watch Fire Safe Sunday, July 11th at 5 and 10 p.m. Eastern Time on the Weather Channel.
Coming up, a look at your local radar. But first, the current local conditions. Conditions. Your local 36-hour forecast from the National Weather Service. Extended forecast. Special regional information. The forecast for cities nationwide. Your local radar, showing any precipitation and its movement during the past 90 minutes. Intensity is indicated by the color code at the top of the screen.